This morning will be on verses 11 and 12. We only have about 10 minutes here, so I'll do an abridged kind of an introduction just to kind of get us back thinking, and then we'll pick up again later.
Then
So
Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of the eastern people. There he saw a well in the field, and 3 flocks of sheep lying near it, because the flocks were watered from that well. The stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks had gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone away from the well's mouth and water the sheep. Then they would return the stone to its place over the mouth of the well.
Jacob asked the shepherds, my brothers, where are you from? We're from Haran, they replied, and he said to them, do you know what Laban, Nahor's grandson? Yes, we know him, they answered. And Jacob asked them, is he well? Yes, he is, they said. And here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep.
Look, he said, the sun is still hot. It's now time for the flocks to be gathered. Water the sheep and take them back to pasture. We can't let it burn until all the flocks are gathered and the stone has been rolled away from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep.
While he was still talking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered his uncle's sheep.
And Jacob kissed Rachel. He lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father.
okay, good. So the whole idea, what we've been looking at here, is that after several weeks of travel, this younger man and his entourage arrived at the goal. And circumstances were such that the prize, Rachel, is coming to the well, and it's this beautiful scene. Verse 11, it says that having experienced all of this whole thing, and of course we have to put it in context of weeks and weeks of travel with the goal in mind, he now arrives and sees Rachel, and of course the reaction in verse 11 is what the key is that he lifted up his voice and wept. Why do you think he wept? Well, that was his emotion there at that moment in time. Why was it weeping, in your opinion? Why did he weep?
Emotional release.
Yeah. Joy, release, joy. I mean, I think we're free to interpret this however we wish, but those were my thoughts. This was, I'm casting this in what it would be like to be on this journey, and then see this young woman come, and you know what the purpose of the journey. He's there, commissioned by his father to take a wife from that land, and here she comes, and he wept. Yes, go ahead.
She may have been more beautiful than he anticipated.
Well, I am sure that at least one time during that 60 or 90, whatever it was, journey, I can't remember how long it took, but he probably, I have no doubt, I put money on it, Jim, that he asked the question, what will she look like?
Yeah.
Carl.
To say that it seemed like everything was coming together all at once. All these circumstances came together, and it was a culmination of things, and so I'm sure he felt great relief.
Yeah.
A lot of his doubts along the way, I mean, we've read and talked about a lot of his doubting, he's questioning everything else, and now almost in one instant, it seems like everything is culminated, and there's not only the spiritual things of questions being answered and the goal reached, but in addition to that, here's this wow. I had no idea she was going to look like this type thing.
Right.
Yeah, he's blown away.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus. I've got my wish. We're done. Let's go home.
Okay, there you go. See, that's kind of how I was seeing it. It is, thank you, Jesus. I got my wish. Now let's just go home. And live happily ever after, right? How many times have you and I faced an experience like that in our life where, thank you, Jesus, what a wonderful gift. Now let's just live happily ever after. Some of you are chuckling. That is the context that, at least how I see this text, and how I thought would be a really fun opportunity and a launching board, especially this time of year, to kind of look at goals, January 1st, accomplishments, but within a broader context. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. Mission accomplished is how I saw it, and from your feedback, I'm thinking you're seeing it the same way. Mission accomplished. Wow. And lifting up of voicing and weeping in joy. So is it, I'm posing the question, mission accomplished, or, let's see, I'm missing. I miss here. Huh, what do you know? That disappeared. Bob, we have technical difficulties here. I had mission accomplished, or on the other hand, it could be just the beginning. How many times, the point is that what we think is mission accomplished most often is only a false summit. Any of you climb mountains, you know what a false summit is. You work and you work and you work and you think you're there, and then all of a sudden you crest this knoll and you go, oh my goodness, there is the summit. But in our life, it just keeps going and going and going. Mission accomplished is how we want to think, how we naturally think. Or is it just the beginning? Or, here's my last slide, somewhere in between. Okay, like here we are out on this boat, and we're floating around. There's land here and land here. I can't see either, but I'm out here floating around. And that's probably where most of us perceive ourselves to some degree. So it's the idea of a journey, a path, how we perceive that journey. And I'll just introduce this slide. Yeah, mission accomplished, just the beginning, or somewhere in between. I'm proposing this, is that we as men, and I think as human beings, we tend to look at our lives through I'm trying to find a different word than self-centered. Self-focused, egocentric lens. So that therefore my path is a path that goes like this. I'm connecting dots. Mission accomplished. That then is a door to yet another journey, another sub-journey in the whole context of my life. So one dot, and then I go and I connect to another dot, and then I connect to another dot and another dot, and there are other dots, as you can see in the picture. But that's another journey. That's someone else. That's how everything relates back to me, because I see things through my lenses and how things relate back to me. Is that not true? Isn't that how we tend to see things naturally? That it's my journey.
We don't have any choice.
Right, and it's not wrong. Yes, it's the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we try to see it through other people, listen to them, but still eventually resolved in our own point of view.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's our point of view. And through hardening of the categories, sometimes we get to a point, it's my way or the highway. Yeah.
Someone who talked about that a lot was Corey ten Boom. She referred to it, I think, that God sees the tapestry on the top side. We see all and in her mind it was, yeah, we have those dots connected, but God sees the straightness of it. We don't.
Uh-huh.
She was faced with swimming.
Yeah.
changes in her journey.
Yeah. Curveballs everywhere. It's not a linear relationship. Note that I didn't draw it as this ascent that we're going through. We tend to want to make it that way, but it's jerky and there's all kinds of dots and curveballs and change. Now, to take your point, let's move this. We're just going to go a couple more slides here. Whoop. And in reality, it's more like this. This is closer. This is what, was it Corey ten Boom you just said?
Corey ten Boom,
Yeah, that it's a much larger context. And now, thinking about the helicopter ride, we were able to see Kauai at a much different context. Nothing like being down there in the jungle and hacking our way through. That's a whole different context. That's the context you and I live in, but we're seeing a relatively small piece of what is really the bigger picture. I mean, have any of you looked out of the window when you're flying somewhere and you look down and you go, it just seems so unimportant. Everybody down there has their big thing that they're doing, and all the cars on the freeway, and they're all going somewhere. But from this context, it really looks pretty unimportant. It doesn't really look like that big a deal. So there's this whole tension that we find ourselves in is, God, I'm down hacking through the bush, trying to make sense out of this life, fielding curveballs, mission accomplished is part of it, but then, oh my goodness, this thing hits me. But then the other side of the coin is looking down from this perspective, and you go, gee, I'm just one line in the midst of many, many others. And now one more slide is that this is, I think, closer to the truth of where it really is. But there is where I think even closer, that we are in the midst of a lot of interconnected dots and other lines. Now, I want to know one thing, and then we'll close with this. Do you see the connections, all the connections going on all these dots? And these dots could be relationships or events, things that we encounter that we call life. And so as we're looking at this picture, and you can see I just connected all those dots. You know how long that took me? I did this for you. And it gets about 30 seconds. Oh my goodness. Cut and paste is a wonderful thing. So with that, what are your thoughts? As we move to what I perceive is more of a real picture. Slide 1 representing our perspective. Slide 2 is, wow, that's a little bit closer. But slide 3 is, boy, we're lost. We can't even pick out our line in that last slide. What are your thoughts as we move to what is truly the bigger picture? I think truly the bigger picture. What are your thoughts about your life?
I'm thinking mine is like, but I'm thinking of Paul's second missionary journey. He just sets out, and he's proactive in the fact he sets out. But everything after that is reactive. He gets visions, doors get closed, doors get open, come over here, go there, and God's blowing the winds on his sail. In my life, mission accomplished. You have these goals. I want to get married. I want a kid. I want to do these things, and you kind of think they're milestones. But each milestone is the beginning of a whole nother process. And every one of the processes, when you get to that milestone, you really get there a different way than you thought you were going to get there.
Boy, that's true. Yeah, I think. True?
I didn't.
What?
I said you have a future in mind for when you. Well, what I should have been, I was going to go to school, and you just end up somewhere very, very different.
Uh-huh.
You got to make peace with that.
Let me ask you this a little more direct. Do you have a comment?
I have a thought, and if you think of that as your journey with God, those interconnected lines are things that happen as a result of your faithfulness in your walk with God. You affect somebody else affects somebody else.
Yeah, there you go.
And so there's things that happen, but you have to walk that journey. You can't sit on that dot and expect to have any effect for God. If you decide that I'm comfortable where I am, I'm just going to sit on this dot, then you cease to affect anybody else's life. And a lot of times that is a result of, I don't see the results of what I'm doing or what I'm hoping to do for God. So you kind of sit back and stop what you're doing, when in essence, in reality, little things can affect the bigger picture because you affected somebody else, and then they jumped off on their journey and they affected other people. So you gotta start. You gotta get off the dot.
I am so glad that I saw your eyes brighten and that you wanted to say something, because you have so hit you've so hit where I wanted to go with this. Is because I think the natural way to look at this, and this wasn't a trick question, we go, gee, my life really isn't that important. And when I see the bigger picture, it really gets lost in a much bigger picture. What, I don't even know what word I was trying to say there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Shuffle. There you go. But Jeff, you've hit it. Is that no? With the opportunity of all of these dots and lines of connection, also come avenues of our influence on other people's lives, and that is the heart of what we are to be about. It's not about being central, back. This is not it. This is how we tend to view it. But as we fall under the redemption of Christ and in growth with Jesus Christ and what we are to be about, Genesis 12, 1 and 2, to be a blessing, to have influence, we don't even know. But it's like this, that what appears in a moment, what appears to be unimportance is actually great opportunity as men to have influence. Trouble is, we forget that. We don't know that. But how many times in your life have you gotten a card from someone or someone, later on comes back to you and something you had said meant something to someone that you didn't even know? That is true of every one of us, guys. If we can fog a mirror, that's true of us. And as we walk, as you were saying, Jeff, as we walk in that relationship, it's going to happen. We don't have to make it happen. It's going to happen. So, with that, I thought a really fun thing to do at this juncture in the year, which is a beginning, a new beginning. I had such a kick with the young banker teller yesterday. He goes, I love New Year's. I go, why do you love New Year's? He's my favorite holiday. Because it's a chance to do it better. And I go, gee, I wish I had that enthusiasm. My whole thought is kind of sarcastically, well, we get to do it again, You can relate to that, can't you? Okay, what we're going to do over the next few weeks is I'm going to give you guys opportunity to think about your life. And this is there's 2 sheets, and I'm going to hand sheet 1 out, and this is your homework. And on this sheet, I'll hand them out in just a moment. And I've got a Christ in the Rockies logo because I've designed these for Christ in the Rockies fathers and sons, but you guys get to use them free of charge. So there's 4 boxes on here. And I'd like you guys to each think about this in this context. 5 and 5. 5 key events that occurred in your life, that has occurred in your life. 5 key events. List them. That actually had influence on you, either positive or negative. But as you go back, now if you want to make it 6, I'm okay, but we only have 5 fingers. You want to make it 4, I'm okay. But the top 5 events that dramatically influenced you in your life, 5. Plus 5 are the top 5 relationships that have dramatically influenced you in your life, either positive or negative. And then on here, it just so happens that I've got defining moments, 5, and defining relationships. And there are, once you identify those, you can then put those in the appropriate box, either positive or high points or low points. And that is, does everybody understand that? So 5 and 5, and then categorize those as either a positive influence or event or relationship, or a negative one, which would be something you've had to work with overcoming and over time. So I'm going to hand those out, and just feel free to do that. We'll pick up with this idea next time we're together, and I think that's it. And we should be about, yes, sir. Would you mind?
Kind of off what you've been talking about, but I noticed in the scripture this morning there was a phrase that came up 2 or 3 times, and that was the stones was rolled away. And I was wondering if the Bible scholars in your study, have you seen anything, or have any scholars connected that with any kind of significance to the story? Because that phrase, the stone was rolled away, or
Oh, you mean,
yeah, is there any kind of
Oh, that-
connection there?
yeah, Carl, that's a good thought. I mean,
It would be mentioned 3 times in the New Testament. There's a great significance to the stone being rolled
yeah,
away.
good thought there. I know, I don't know that. I don't know that. I'm sure someone has gone down that and thought about that. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, good guys. Thank you. Happy New Year to you, and
Happy New Year, glad you're back.
yeah,
Well,
thank you.
gentlemen, he's bailing on us. He's taking the money and running. He won't be here next week.
But after that, I promise I'll be here for a while.
Yeah.
We'll take the same theme and wrestle with it next week, and then go forward from there.
Okay.
Trip to Mallorca or something?
Business trip next week. So.
What's that song?
My day job.
What's that song? Come on, take the money and run.
Do you want? Why don't you keep these? Because you're going to go with that next week. So.